Om Shri Sai Ram. We offer our most loving pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet, and we pray to Swami that he inspires our words for all our listeners as well as for both of us, Arvind and myself here. Welcome, dear listeners, for this next episode of the live Satsangh. In some ways, this is a continuation of the live Satsangh that we had last week. The topic that we had given last week was why does bad happen even while we do good? But essentially, it was a discussion on the philosophy of karma. So we will be continuing with that. We, at the very outset, should thank all of you for the overwhelming response, for the number of questions that you had sent, because we had invited questions. But I think we should also tell you that it is not going to be possible for us to address each one of those questions. But our hope and our prayer is that in the course of this discussion that we're going to have today, much of those questions will be addressed. But as we always say and also as we always maintain, the answers to all our questions can be found only within. Even Swami's own words can only be directions for us, but the real answer will always be found within. So in the course of the next few days, Arvind and myself will also endeavor to try and give you answers, whether it's the questions left under the YouTube link or in the page that we've created on the website. We will try and as much as possible share whatever Swami has said. But in the course of this next 1 hour, we're going to take that discussion forward, because last week when we spoke, we left with the question that if every karma is binding, is there any way that we can act so that karma doesn't bind us and karma liberates us? So that was a question that we had asked. But even before we come to that, we will address one question that often comes whenever we speak about karma. And even as I say this, there are many people who have asked this question. I've just picked up the name of 1 or 2 listeners who have asked this question, and I'm going to read out that question. But a lot of people ask this question. You will see what it is. This is a question by Ms. Shalini Gunanathan, and she says, if we are to claim that we are all God, all beings are God, then how can the karmic philosophy be true? It sounds like a theory created by sages in order to keep the human race under control. There was a Mr. Niranjan who had asked a question which was similar to this, and as I said, many others had asked. This is a question that often comes, because we often say that everything is God's will. Everything happens because of Swami's will. Not even a blade of grass moves without God's will. Then where is the question of individual will at all? The simple answer to that is, it's absolutely true. There is nothing like individual will. As Adi Shankara tells in his seminal work, the Vivekachudamani, Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya. Only Brahman is true. Everything else is only Mithya. It only appears true, but essentially it is false. So yes, there is no individual will at all, because everything in this Jagat is Mithya. But the problem for us is, we are not in that state where we believe in this statement completely. And whenever this question is asked, we always ask, is this true or is that true? Is divine will alone there, or is individual will also there? It's either this or that. But it is not that case when we are talking about spirituality, because what happens within a dream is unreal for the person who is awake. But for the person in the dream, it is as real can be. So it is real for somebody in that state of being in the dream. It is unreal for the person who is awake. When we say that Brahma, Satyam and Jagan Mithya, to be able to always be in that state, it is referred to as Brahma Nishta or Atma Nishta, where you firmly believe, you firmly are maintaining in that state that I don't believe in anything, which means the sorrows, the successes, the competition, somebody is greater, somebody is lesser, I need to become something, I need to achieve something, all of that is part of this Mithya. And there is no sorrow, there is no happiness, there is no success, there is no failure, and of course there is no karma in that state, right? But Swami says, for one to achieve that state, first you must begin this exploration or this journey towards that state. And Swami says that journey is referred to as Brahma Jignasa. And Brahma Jignasa is what will eventually take you to Brahma Nishta, or that state where you believe that Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, Jivo Brahmaiva na apara, which means the individual will and divine will are not separate, it is only one, right? But to get there, Swami has a very beautiful quote where he explains this thing. I'll probably read out that quote first. Even as I'm reading out, you will actually see it on your screens. And I will just briefly explain what Swami is saying there. Swami says, this is a discourse from 17th of July 1988. How is one to seek the knowledge of the Brahman? This quest can begin after one has acquired knowledge of Dharma, that is, after the stage of Dharma Jignasa has been completed. When is Dharma Jignasa accomplished? When Karma Jignasa, the knowledge of Karma, has been mastered. There are thus three stages: Karma Jignasa, knowledge of Karma; Dharma Jignasa, knowledge of Dharma; and Brahma Jignasa, the quest for knowledge of Brahman. So Swami makes it very clear that yes, we all are progressing towards that state, but to get there, it all starts with how you perform your karma. It starts with how you are responding to your everyday activities, everyday duties, and from that, how to perform karma and what karma to perform, you come to the exploration of dharma. What is right? What is wrong? How am I doing it? Is this the right way to respond to situations? And when you have done that, that's why Swami very beautifully says in Swami Sutra Vahini, the Brahma Sutras begin with a very cryptic statement. It says, Athatho Brahma Jignasa, which means after this, the quest for Brahman begins. And Swami writes in Sutra Vahini, after what? How can a book begin like this? Then Swami says, after one has become perfect in karma and dharma.
In other words, it's almost like after you have woken up from the sleep is unreal. But as long as you are sleeping, the sleep is very real. So too, till we get awakening, all these rules of karma, karma theory, whatever we talk, all of that holds good. Once we are awakened beings, then all that can be discarded, there is only divine will. So it comes back to this enigmatic term, karma. Now what is karma? Karma is nothing but action. But karma is not just action. Karma also includes inaction. In fact, I was reading in Bhagwan's Discourse on the 14th of February 1999, where Swami says, see, in the Kaurava court when Draupadi was being dishonored, there was Bhishma, there was Drona, there was Kripacharya, so many others. All of them didn't do anything. And Swami says in that discourse that because Bhishma did not do anything, Bhishma's inaction resulted in him having to lie on a bed of arrows for 56 long days in the Kurukshetra war. Swami said that was a punishment for inaction. So, karma is not just action, even inaction is karma. Choosing not to act also has karma, acting also has karma. And because it puts us in a dilemma then. Because if you say that if you act, karma is there, you can't even choose not to act because even inaction results in karma. In fact, we had a question that we got along these lines. Many questions. One we have picked up by Kartika and Arun, where they ask, what should we do when we know about injustice happening to fellow beings? Should we just say that it is their karma and leave it? What is our duty at that time, to pray or to act? Who shows the way to commit the sin, one who actually commits the sin, and finally, one who witnesses the sin. All these five are equally culpable, equally sinners. So therefore, when you ask what should we do, should we just leave it or pray? Is it time to act or time to pray? It is not time for inaction. But then a wrong assumption has been made here that prayer is not action. Prayer is also action. It doesn't mean action is something that I do with my body. Thoughts are action. Words are action. Thoughts also have karma. Words also bring karma. So karma is not just action. Karma is action and inaction. Words and silence and thoughts. Everything comes under karma. It reminds me, Brother Prem, of the wonderful experience of Brother Indreshwar Sirohi. He narrates how once he was seated outside the interview room. I mean, that is one area allocated to the students as well. So when he was seated there, he was remembering a person who had cheated the family. And he was very, very upset with that person. He was very angry on that person. And so, as he sat there, thoughts of this person who cheated the family were overpowering the thoughts of even Swami. So, in order to, in that anger, what he did is he was helpless. He could not do anything against the person who cheated. So, he closed his eyes and mentally he began to rain blows on that person, began to punch his face, hit, and do all this in his mind. At that time, the interview room door opened. Swami walked out, came straight to him and said, Gopal, what are you doing? Stop, you will kill him. And brother Indreshwar was very surprised. What is Swami meaning? I will kill whom? Then Swami took him inside the interview room and Swami said, thoughts are also action. When you do that, when you pummel somebody down, when you hit somebody in your thoughts, it is actually raining blows on them. Don't do it. It is not good. So, you see, even thoughts and words are karma. And the second part of the question that Kartika and Arun ask is, sometimes the incident is happening in another part of the world, or the adharmic entity is so powerful, meaning we are helpless to do anything against him or her. How should we do our dharma during such times? Yes, if we are not able to act, for instance, in that same Kaurava court where Bhishma sat silent and he was blamed for inaction, there were also soldiers standing guard next to the king, next to Bhishma himself. We don't see them being blamed for Draupadi being disrobed, which means as far as our line of duty is, what is the purview of our duty? Within that, if we can act, we act. We don't go and do the duty of the king. I mean, a soldier standing there, standing guard like this with the spear next to Bhishma should not say, I am going to stab you, O Dushasana. No, that is not his duty. And that is the reason he is not carrying the sin of inaction also. It is only Bhishma who carries. So too, when we see something that is bad that is happening, which is beyond our purview of our duty, we can definitely pray. And what should we pray? Because Swami clearly told Brother Indreshwar here, don't mentally pray for anybody's downfall. Don't mentally hit anybody. Don't do that. It will work, but it is not good. It is negative karma. Then what should I do? Swami has given the beautiful solution. Swami says, that is why, after every darshan session, when we would all sing the bhajans and conclude with Samasta Loka, Swami himself would join in that. In fact, he would encourage us to always say Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu, Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. May all the beings in all the worlds be happy. And how does this prayer work? When we pray for the peace and happiness of all, automatically those elements that are disrupting that peace and happiness will have to get removed. That is positive prayer. So we don't pray for anybody's downfall. However powerful or adharmic somebody is, we don't pray for anybody's downfall, but we pray for Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. And when we do that prayer, automatically peace and happiness will reign. So these are some beautiful tips that Swami gives on how we should do correct karma. Because the whole process or the whole strategy of performing karma correctly so that we don't get bound in this world, that is what is called karma yoga. Last week, as this slide depicts, we had spoken about the arrows, the analogy of the arrows, where the arrows in the quiver is Sanchita karma, the arrow in the bow is Agami karma, and the arrow that has already been released is Prarabdha karma. Every time it hits the target, it comes back into the quiver. Karma yoga is that technique or that attitude or that sadhana by which we ensure that the arrow doesn't return to the quiver, and it will be our endeavor today to go into karma yoga as beautifully elucidated by our beloved Bhagwan.
Very beautifully you said, Arvind. The most important point I would like to take on from is that even inaction can become karma, right? Even thoughts can become karma. That's a very powerful thought that Swami left us with, and that's a different topic altogether, because a lot of people have asked what is the role of vasanas in karma. We probably will not have time to go into that, but it's a little more nuanced than the topic that we're talking about here. But talking about karma, inaction being karma, the typical example that you can give, classic example, is the predicament of Arjuna. Right? Arjuna was in the battlefield, he was faced with a battle. He knew that if he gets into the battle, most likely he's going to vanquish everybody there. And who are the people who are there? They are his teacher, his cousins, his uncle, his grandfather. So if he commits himself to the action, he is going to perform something wrong, and there is a possibility that he might lose also. So he found that I'm going to do an action, but whatever is the outcome of that action, nothing seems to be something that I'll be fond of, I'll be attracted towards. So he says that what if I don't perform this action? Can I escape? Can I run away from the battlefield? I'll become a sannyasi. And it is then that Krishna tells him that your inaction also will become bad karma, because to act is your duty. And that is where the first dictum about what karma should be performed, what are we supposed to do? Swami makes a very beautiful statement. It is kartavyam yoga muchyate. When you ask what is yoga, what is karma yoga, kartavyam yoga muchyate, which means to perform one's duty is spoken of as being yoga. What is this duty and what are we talking of? We all have been placed in a certain situation in life. We've been made somebody's son, we've been made somebody's father, we've been made somebody's mother. These are all situations that we've been placed in, and to dispense that duty that we have been given is part of that kartavyam. And if you really observe that, Swami would often say, Paropakarartham idam shariram. This body is meant to be of use to others. A mother is there, a child is there, the child needs help. So the mother's presence becomes useful to that child. There are elderly parents who need to be taken care of. The son or daughter becomes useful to those parents. So when you're actually dispensing your duty, you're only making yourself useful in that situation that Providence has placed you in. So the first and foremost important thing is that, and that's why Swami would often say, the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita is Mama Dharma. What is your duty? It has to be performed. In fact, there's a very beautiful episode that I recall. Apparently there was one boy who had come, I think this must be in the 60s, 50s, I'm not too sure of the time, a 25-year-old boy who had come to Prashantanilayam, and Swami gave him a room in the Patashala block, which is near the present day, what do you call that, the general hospital, right? So those were the days when Swami was the accommodation officer. Nobody would get a room even in Prashantanilayam without Swami's approval. So he was given that room in Patashala block. One fine day, Swami calls this boy for an interview, and Swami tells him, you gave him some money, and Swami said, you just go outside and get a pair of shirt and pant and come. So this boy said, Swami, why do you want a shirt and pant? why do you want me to get a shirt and pant? Swami said, no, I want you to buy that shirt and pant and I want you to go back home. So this boy said, Swami, I have come here, I have given up the world to take up a spiritual life. Why are you sending me back to the world? His idea was he wanted to become a monk. He wanted to take up sannyas and he wanted to be Swami's disciple, right? Those were the days probably. Now we know that Swami doesn't have any that kind of a sampradaya where you have disciples, and that tradition is not followed by Swami in that sense. But he wanted to become that. And Swami told him, your mother has brought you up with so much difficulties. She has done work in others' houses, she has done menial labor, and she has brought you up and made you what you are. Now she is ailing there. Do you think you can win my grace without completing your duty? And Swami said that will never work. You have to go back. Doing your duty is the best way to win your grace and the way forward in spirituality. So that is one of the most important things. In a spiritual life, if you want to do karma yoga instead of karma, you have to lead a duty-centric life. And I think that is the first point in karma yoga that we all have to keep in mind.
Yogaha karmasu kaushalam. So beautiful. Kartavyam yoga muchyate. Sorry. Kartavyam yoga muchyate, which means that our duty is karma yoga. Now when we speak of doing duty, we see everybody is doing their duty, but we know that everybody is not doing their duty in the same way, right? So let's take some examples. Okay, we can classify them based on different aspects that Swami has said. Therefore, for instance, let us consider a woman at a grocery store. She is very rude to the customers. She is absolutely disinterested in her job. She doesn't speak properly, she doesn't give proper replies, she is very grumpy and she is grim-faced. Of course, in our lifetimes, in our day-to-day life, we would have come across shopkeepers like this. So, this is one example.
The other example probably which most of us would have faced is you go into a bank or a government office. The person behind the counter is probably lost in their own conversation on the phone. And if you're an old person and you want to catch that person's attention, probably he or she becomes angry, and those kind of situations, and you see that they take their own sweet time to respond to you.
And in every situation, for example, a teacher pays extra attention to certain students, is partial, practices nepotism. How? Because extra marks are awarded to some students, some who are not favorite, they are not given. So we see such examples.
Or you have an example of somebody like a doctor, because a doctor is somebody who people have a lot of trust and faith on, and that person is not giving the right solution for your problem. He is giving you a suggestion of a surgery when probably medicines is good enough, or is trying to complicate your case and trying to scare you into accepting a treatment that he or she is doing. That is again a case that
when you say that, it reminds me of a joke that I read, that son comes to his father, who is a doctor, and says, "Father, this patient whom you have been treating for 20 years, I cured him in 20 days. The
son who becomes a doctor.
The son who becomes a doctor says that, "I cured him, father." And the father says, "You fool, who do you think paid for your medical education?" This case has been prolonged so that your education can be paid for. So these examples are there where the duty is being performed, but it is being performed probably in the worst possible manner. And Swami would say this is duty without love. Swami would say duty without love is deplorable. Duty with love is desirable, love without duty is divine. That's subject for another day, but duty without love is deplorable. And these are actual cases that were presented to us in our awareness class. Both Prem and myself, we have been very blessed to have wonderful awareness teachers like Professor G. Venkatraman, Shri S. V. Giri sir, Dr. Rangarajan, so many, Dr. H.J. Bhagya, so many wonderful awareness teachers. And when they asked us, what is the problem in these scenarios? What do you think is the mistake? The answers that came in the class were that, possibly the person is bored. He or she is not interested in the job, don't care about the customer, they are not customer centric, or some even said that they are the victims of the 6 vices, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. So all this problem analysis was done. In the end, all of this can be summarized by 2 words, which Swami beautifully mentions in multiple discourses. One example is the discourse on 27th April 1990, which he dedicates it to these 2 terms. What are the 2 terms? Swartham, Swaprayojanam, meaning selfishness and self-interest. In fact, in that discourse, Swami says, you need to contribute to society, you need to contribute to nature, you need to contribute to everybody, and for that you have to remove selfishness, Swartham, and Swaprayojanam, self-interest, meaning I will do something only if there is something in it for me, otherwise I won't do it. And our teachers guided us that in all these cases, the problem is Swartham and Swaprayojanam.
So going back to these examples that we are going through, the person is there in the situation he or she has been placed in. And in a sense, the person is also dispensing the duty, but it is being done in a manner which is imperfect. You are there, you are performing your duty, like probably any of those examples that we gave. There's a person who is manning the counter, is supposed to be there, he's there. It's morning 9 he comes, evening 5 he goes. But the duty is not being dispensed in the way it has to be done. So in fact, that is the first or the second. The first is, as we said, kartavyam yogam uchyate. The second point that Swami makes is yoga karmasu kaushalam. True yoga is to perform your duty with perfection. You could call it professionalism when you're talking about the same thing in the professional scenario. But you can talk of it, love becomes more real when you're talking of it when a mother or father is dispensing the duty towards the child, or the child is dispensing duty towards parents. So in any way, perfection in action, in whatever you're doing, as much as possible, to give your full attention and to dispense that duty to as best as you can. This is something that many people have experienced, spoken about. Swami's eye for detail. How much Swami used to give a lot of importance to anything, any activity that he takes up. In fact, one of our teachers would say that whenever these guests would come, be it a Vice Chancellor's conference or there used to be a cardiac conference which was there, Swami would make it a point to go inside the bathroom and check if all the toiletries are ready for the guests.
I remember Venkatachalam sir narrating an incident where painting was going on
Exactly.
in the
In
hostel.
fact, the hostel construction, I think the hostel was extended over many years. One of those construction was going on, and Swami was physically there. Every day Swami would be there. You would finish darshan and you would come off there, and you would stand there and personally look at the whole work happening. So at one point, our Venkatachalam sir, who is in charge of the mess in the hostel, even now he is there. We're all very fond of him. He's taken care of us like a mother would take care. So he went up to Swami and said, Swami, why are you troubling yourself like this? We are all here. We will take care of the work. Why don't you go and take rest? You come after the work is done, we'll call you. You come and take a look. And Swami said, no, you will not take care properly. Nobody will take care like me, Swami said. So he said, no, Swami, we will take care. Don't worry. And then Swami looked at it. I think one room was getting ready or one wing was getting ready. And Swami said, okay, there are 3 works. One is the painting that is happening, the electrical work, and the carpentry work. I want to get all these 3 done. So Swami said, I'll go now. Tomorrow I'll come and I'll check. Let me see if you're doing it well. So he said, don't worry, Swami, we'll take care of it. And very confidently he said, and Swami went away, and promptly the next morning Swami comes. And Swami said, all 3 works are done? I said, yes, Swami, everything is done, perfectly done. Are you sure? Swami asked, yes, Swami, everything is done. So Swami goes into the room, and you'll recall the cupboards that we all used to have.
Correct.
It used to be a 3-door cupboard. There'll be 2 doors which close like this, and 1 door which opens like this, which we would use as our study.
Writing table.
And our reading table. So Swami goes up to the first cupboard, or just one random cupboard he goes to. He opens that, the study. It is actually a little inclined. It is not straight. And Swami said, look at this. Is this how you get it done? And Swami said, if boys sit and use this for writing, will they not get a back pain? So he said, yes, Swami, I think this is wrong. I should have taken a look at this.
Carpentry error.
Carpentry error. So Swami says, carpentry gone. You have failed. Then Swami asks him, have you done the electrical work properly? Now the confidence is little dipped, I started dipping. He said, Swami, I think it is fine. So Swami said, let's see. And Swami goes to one particular point, just stands there randomly and just looks up. There's one wire hanging exactly where Swami is standing. Swami said, what is that wire? Of all the things, I think that has missed his eye. He said, Swami, I don't know how, from where that has come. Swami said, it's a live wire, it's hanging like this. What will happen? Boys will be playing, they will climb something. Swami said, electrical work failed. Then Swami asked him, what about the painting work? He said, Swami, I have no idea. Swami should only come and check. And again, what Swami does, he goes into the room, and we used to have these windows. We always have monkey menace in our hostel. So the windows used to have a proper door, and when you want, you can open it, and there used to be a stopper, a wooden stopper that you can put in place, and the window will be kept open. Swami goes to one of the windows, opens that stopper. The back side of that stopper was not painted. Right? See, it will not. Nobody is going to see that. None of the students are going to see. But we all know that painting is not only for the look of it, but termites and other things. The wood is safe, and so many things. So that is what Swami said. This also you have not taken care of. See, that is the kind of eye for detail. The whole episode is not that Swami wanted to tell someone that you're not good enough, you're not doing it. Swami said, see, this is the kind of excellence in work I expect. If you're showing it to somebody, that you will only do it as much as that person can see. But if you're doing it with full commitment, I am doing it, it has got to be perfect. Even what is not seen, it will be done in a perfect manner. So that is the second aspect of how you have to perform karma. Yoga karma kaushalam. If you want to become a spiritual person, whatever is your profession, you will become better at that. Whatever is your role in your family, you should become better at that. People who think that, I have become spiritual, so I am not able to concentrate on office work, that doesn't work. Swami says, getting better at whatever you're doing, better work-life balance, better delivery of whatever has been assigned to you is also a sign of spirituality.
So from Kartavyam Yoga Muchyate, which is duty is yoga, we move on to Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam, wherein perfection in that duty becomes yoga. So that is what we found as the problem in the first 4 cases that we saw, wherein if we have this selfishness and self-interest, if it's only self-centered, we are unable to do it. We are unable to do it to perfection. Now let's take a few more cases. For example, let's take a businessman who is very committed, very sincere in work, very professional, very passionate and puts in all efforts. But then, in spite of all that, the business goes for a loss. And when the business goes for a loss, the businessman is unable to bear it and he commits suicide. Such cases we hear so frequently in the news. It happens.
Or take the example of a student. The student who is, it doesn't have to be monitored. The student, let's say it's a girl who is very committed, who knows how she has to, she's taking the GRE or TOEFL. I'm sure the Indian audience will be able to relate to that. A competitive exam, which is very, very difficult to clear. So she has worked very hard over many, many months. She's put all the effort that a student has to do. As Swami would say, you have to write and practice, you have to revise early in the morning. Let's say that all those do's and don'ts of a student life this girl has followed. At the end of it, she doesn't clear that competitive exam and she's heartbroken. Now she's even slipping into depression, contemplating some wrong measures. These are again cases that we often see.
Or for instance, a scientist who has worked all his life to achieve something, comes up with a wonderful discovery, wonderful invention. He is so sure that he is going to win an award or possibly the Nobel Prize, and then he sees that somebody has plagiarized, somebody has copied, somebody has taken off his work, and that Nobel Prize now goes to a colleague. Or even if somebody has not stolen the work, it's just that we see that happening. You feel you are the deserving one, but somebody else gets the prize. And after that, I mean, the interest and passion in doing that work itself is gone. You don't feel like being a scientist anymore because you know that you have done everything right, and like we discussed last week, bad is happening to good people and good is happening to bad people. So these are some more cases that were presented to us in our awareness class, and once again, as always, the teachers asked us to come up with what do you think is the problem or mistake over here.
Right, and most of the students gave these as their points. One was the person has not put in enough effort, because you never know how much effort is enough, right? You're preparing for an exam, you're doing an invention, you never know what is the requisite amount of effort. No balance of mind. The person does not have an emotional quotient, as they say. The IQ is very high, but EQ is very low. That's a possibility. Person is very impatient, does not have the balanced weight, very short-sighted. There might be something, you clear one exam, you don't clear another exam. It could be that could be the case. Or sometimes, as my science teacher once told me, I got all my experiments having negative results. And I said, sir, all my experiments are a failure. The teacher told me, no, you have found different ways of how it does not work. Right? That's short-sightedness. Actually, in science, it's important to find out ways that don't work also.
In fact, they say that Edison, when he saw his whole lab burn down, I don't know if it's Edison or Newton, when the whole lab burned down, he just said that I'm grateful that all my mistakes are burnt and I can start afresh.
Right. And the other thing was given was lack of confidence, lack of willpower. But if you really observe or study these cases, what is actually the problem is that the approach was so much centered on the results. So much of effort has gone in, so much of sincerity is there, but you have placed all your happiness on one particular outcome, one particular result. And whenever you have a result-oriented approach, it will come with its set of problems. And if you ask me, the most critical problem is much of the results don't completely depend on you. For any outcome, there are so many other possibilities, so many other things that are beyond your control. Nothing can be done by you. The best example Swami would give is that of a farmer. He can do everything perfectly in his control, but if it doesn't rain, you cannot blame him for that. So in most of our activities, the result is always dependent on things that are little more than what is in our control. So the moment you are going to put it on something outside you, you are actually signing up for disappointment.
And the best way to ensure that you don't get disappointed is let it depend on things that is in your control.
Exactly. Then the other problem is, whenever the focus is on the results, there is always a chance of slipping into wrong karma. The example of the scientist that you gave, right? He has tried so hard, somebody has sabotaged his work, then he gets vengeful. Let me also do this. Because one of the points that we're talking of is, even as we are dispensing our karma, how do you respond to that? So you don't want to do agami karma, which is going to add to your sanchita karma, that is dangerous, right? So suppose I want to become a doctor, I'm studying hard for that. If it is not written in my prarabdha to become a doctor, then if my approach is totally result oriented, then I will get totally devastated and I will slip into action that is going to take me into more trouble. So this is the problem with the result oriented kind of karma that you perform.
So therefore, I think we should become process oriented, wherein we enjoy just doing the karma. I remember on one occasion, Swami had come out and he was talking to the students, and which would often happen, it was after the exams when the results had been declared, and Swami was asking all the students how many marks they had got, what was their marks. When he asked one student who said that he had got 92%, Swami told him, you should study harder, you should work harder. Not good. So we were all like surprised, 92% is pretty good by our standards. Then we thought, oh, okay, Swami likes perfection, so he's not happy with 92%. But then Swami picked up one student whom, as we saw itself, we realized, oh my God, Swami, wrong student to pick, because this was a weak student in the class. Swami asked him, how much you got? Now, this student did not want to divulge, because 92 itself is like work hard, Swami has told. So he said, Swami, this is the solution. What? Huh? Swami asked. He didn't want it to be clear. He said, Swami, how much? Then he said, Swami, 62 or 63, something like that. Swami said, very good. Working very hard, very happy. And we were all very shocked. What is Swami saying? Swami, 92 is higher than 62. But that is when, later we realized that Swami doesn't see the result. Swami sees the effort, because effort is what is in our control. And possibly this weak student who used to fail many times, getting 62% must have meant tremendous effort. And possibly that was a brilliant student who can easily get 95%, but because of lack of effort, got 92%. So God's focus is always on actions and efforts, not results. Why should we be focusing so much on the result then? As you said, result is not in our hands. And if we focus on the result and it comes differently, we are disappointed. But if we focus on our efforts, that's what I used to always feel. When it comes to speaking, where are we compared to the great orators who have spoken in Bhagwan's presence? But I used to feel, Swami, if I can put my 100% in this, then in the result I may not be equal to an orator, but in effort I will be equal and Swami will be happy. Professor Kasturi in his book Loving God records a very beautiful episode. He writes how after the 1950 Prashanti Nilayam inauguration, early days, Swami had got some coconut trees planted around the mandir. And every day it was the task for the devotees to water. There was no concept of sevadal and volunteer, nothing. So the devotees were everything and they would water this. And how it would happen is about 100 yards away there was an open well with steps into it. The men who are stronger physically would go into the well and pick up bindis or those pots of water and pass it up. Then a horizontal line of women would pass on the pots to water the plants, and then a line of all the elderly people would pass back the empty pots. In order to make it interesting, Swami said that there is a competition between men and women. When the filled pot comes, if there is no woman's hand ready to receive that pot, then the men win. When an empty pot comes, if a filled pot is not ready, then the women win. And Swami would keep this competition, and when this competition would happen, at the end, whether the men would win some days, the women would win some days, and Swami would materialize a bunch of talismans or toffees or anything and give it to them as a gift. One day Swami said, I am happy with all of you, so one special photograph. And those days taking a photograph was a big affair. Right. So Swami called and said, everybody sit around, made plans. The bindi also should be there so that people make out
the reference.
The reference. This is for the bindi pass or the pot passing competition. And Swami himself put a pot and sat on the pot. It took almost half an hour to do all those arrangements, and Professor Kasturi writes that he was given the task of taking the photo. And so he took the photographs. Unfortunately, at the end, when they actually developed the negative, they found that Professor Kasturi writes, I don't know where I bungled up, whether I pressed the wrong button or I didn't load the film properly, but the photographs did not come at all. And then Professor Kasturi writes, to his great surprise, none of the people were disappointed. And he writes, because they were so happy with the process in which the photograph was arranged that their joy was complete. It didn't matter whether the photo came or not. And through this, Professor Kasturi writes that Swami teaches us that the process of action is more joyful than the result. Result doesn't matter. When you have done the action perfectly, the process of action itself will give you fulfillment and joy.
Right.
And that is what it says, that if you are able to focus on the process and not on the result, your action will become more towards perfect karma, and that is what was lacking in all the examples that we read before. But when we say this, Prem, the question arises that if I do good actions, I am self-motivated and I don't bother about results, I leave it to God. Is that enough? Is that perfect karma? Will I be free of karmic consequence?
That's the question, because when you say good karma will beget good consequences, bad karma will beget bad consequences, whatever we have described can still come in good karma. Right? It's the best way of doing karma. Do your duty, do it well, do it without bothering about the result. So this is the best way to do karma, but then it will still have results. In fact, there's a very beautiful episode which one of our teachers had narrated once. It was in Trayee, Brindavan. Most of our listeners would know about the setup in Trayee, Brindavan. Very beautiful, a very close interaction with Swami. That was an opportunity we would get during those sessions. So Swami was talking about karma. Probably Swami even sang that Padyam that we heard last time, because Swami was saying that, see, this is karma, it is infallible. Whatever you do, small, big, knowingly, unknowingly, everything is recorded, good, bad, good for good, bad for bad, Swami was saying. So there was this one boy in the audience, one of Swami's students, who had a very melancholic face and in fact a confused look on his face. And Swami looked at him and Swami said, Indra, what are you looking like that for? Is there any problem? Do you have any question? He said, yes, Swami, I have one question. Cheppo adugu, Swami said, ask me. So he said, Swami, whatever bad, even the smallest bad, it will come back to me. Swami said, yes, it will come back to you. Swami, even good will come back like that? Swami said, yes. Then he said, Swami, for all my life, if I am going to do good, then I will have to come back again to enjoy the good? Swami said, yes, you have to come back again to enjoy the good. Then he said, Swami, then what is the point? Doing good also I am going to get bound, doing bad also I am going to get bound. So what is the way out? Swami said, yes, good also will bind, bad also will bind. The only way out is to give up doership. Swami very clearly said, unless and until you give up doership, you will not be able to come out of this cycle. In fact, going back to that bow and arrow analogy that we've been giving, what did we say? That when you shoot an arrow, whether it is the arrow in your hand or it is an arrow that has already been shot, if it hits the target, it is going to come back to your quiver. Consequences will come back to you. Now, what is that target? That target is ego. So, as long as your actions are motivated or directed towards ego, which means Swami would say kartritva or bhoktritva. Kartritva is doership. I am doing it, you will have to enjoy it. I am shooting it, I am doing this action because I want to enjoy it, then there is doership. So this kartritva and bhoktritva is both together. So whatever is shot at that target will have to come back. The only way out, as Swami says, is if you are able to in some manner remove that target, and then the arrow does not have anywhere to hit, then even the arrows in your quiver do not have a place to hit. Right? Even if you are going to load that arrow in the quiver, there is nowhere it is going to hit because you have removed the target.
Beautiful. I mean, that is, I think, the conclusion we are moving towards, that apart from doing action perfectly, apart from focusing only on the action and not the result, finally give up doership as well. Don't feel I did it. If the minute I did it comes in, then I have to enjoy the fruits or the negative, as Brother Prem beautifully put it. In fact, in his discourse on the 29th of April 1997, which Swami delivered in Kodaikanal, Swami says, how do you ensure that you are not bound by your good and bad actions? In fact, we had referred to it last week, wherein tamasic karma is an iron chain,
right.
Rajasic karma is a silver chain, and Sattvic karma is a golden chain. But
Chain
all are chains. Chains, nevertheless, they bind you. Swami said, if you want to escape the chain, Swami said, you have to either grow so big that you break the chain, or Swami said, you should become so small that the chains slip off and you escape. And then Swami said, growing big means Shivoham. or Soham, where you realize that Advaitic principle, the Gnana Marga, I am divine, I am God. Through the process of Shivoham or Soham, you grow so big because you become the Lord, you become Mahato Mahiyan, bigger than the biggest. The chains just shatter. Else, Swami said, I think this is the easier one because that is what we both felt. The easier one, Swami said, through bhakti, through devotion, make yourself small. Say, Dasoham, I am just the small, I am just a servant of my Lord. I am nothing, my Lord is everything, my Swami is everything. Swami said, when you say Dasoham and become like that, I am nothing, my Lord is everything, you become so small that the chains automatically fall away. In fact, this was even told to one of our teachers whom I referred to before, Professor Bhagya. Swami told him so beautifully, playing on his name. See, that is the thing. Swami, while giving the message also, the poet in Swami is seen. Swami said, Bhagya, your name Bhagya. What does it mean? It means that you should do your karmas, your actions, your actions should flow like a river between the two banks of Bha and Gya. What is Bha and Gya? Bhakti and Gnana. Swami said, perform all your actions. Let the river of karma flow between the banks of Bhakti and Gnana, and that is done. So, that is the thing. And out of Soham and Dasoham, definitely it looks like Bhakti Marga is easier. To surrender to the Lord is easier. To love God is so easy. And in fact, if you look at all the great Jnanis, Adi Shankaracharya himself, they have also practiced Bhakti Marga. We have seen Adi Shankaracharya composing so many Shatakams, Ashtakams and Stotrams and songs, the Bhajagovindam itself. So, definitely for ordinary people like us, Dasoham or becoming a devotee of the Lord, having Bhakti, loving God intensely, no matter what, let us love for Him, let us yearn for Him. And that, Swami himself, I think, said it in a beautiful Padyam. In fact, last week we played a Padyam where Swami says that the Kantamala, that is the necklace of karmas, is there, it's inevitable, you can't do anything, you can't escape from it. In that same discourse a little later, Swami says this beautiful Padyam. It's a very short Padyam, but its meaning is so beautiful and it covers our entire life. We will play that Padyam now and listen to it in Swami's own divine voice.
అద్దమందున ప్రతిబింబమంటనటుల తామరాకులు నీటిచే తడుపనటుల అద్దమందున ప్రతిబింబమంటునటుల తామరాకులు నీటిచే తడుపనటుల పాపములు అంటవు మానవుని భక్తి వలన పాపములంటవు మానవుని భక్తి వలన పాపములు అంటవు మానవుని భక్తి వలన అంటవు మానవుని భక్తి వలన.
Isn't that a wonderful Padyam, dear listeners? And as Arvind was saying, Swami only gave us the prognosis of the problem and then Swami himself is giving the solution. And as Swami said there, when there is devotion in the heart, then sins don't stick. As we've been seeing, the problem is there is karma and there is consequence, and we are trying to break that cycle. Two links and they are going on and on. So what Swami is saying is bring devotion between karma and the consequences of karma. And how do you do that? As Professor Venkatraman would teach us again in our awareness classes, he would give it in the form of something referred to as a PN cycle. Because PN cycle is a concept in science, I think. But the way he would say it is, P stands for prasadam and N stands for naivedyam. When you're performing an action, make it your offering to God.
Naivedyam.
That is naivedyam. And whatever results come, accept it as prasadam. So there is an action, there is a consequence. You're bringing God in between and you're saying whatever I'm doing is an offering. Whatever results come, good or bad, becomes your prasadam. And in fact, this is what in Vedanta is referred to as Ishvara Arpana Buddhi and Prasada Buddhi. And very critical for Karma Yoga, what this does. If I'm going to offer my actions to Swami, that yoga karma sukhaushalam that we spoke about, excellence in action, that now takes a different color. See, not only I should be perfect in my action, that action should be performed in a manner that Swami would like, which means I should do it lovingly, I should do it with unity, I should not be hurting somebody, I should not be harming somebody in the name of being absolutely perfect. I cannot hurt others' feelings. That also gets into this idea of karma sukhaushalam. And then when you talk about prasadam, as we would say, we all have our favorite sweets. Some of us like laddu, some of us like, some of us like even hots more than sweets.
Correct.
But when you're sitting in mandir, when Swami gives you something with his own hands, whatever it is acceptable. Like
you don't check for taste.
Right, you don't check for taste. In fact, vibhuti, there are stories of Swami giving vibhuti which is black in color, which is bitter, which is extremely pungent. Because once it comes from Swami's hand, it is acceptable. And when that attitude comes, Swami says the third quality of Karma Yoga, Samatvam Yoga Muchyate. Equanimity is said to be yoga. Because whatever comes is now acceptable to you. And the other thing that happens is, what you're doing is an offering, what you receive is a prasadam, which means even my present becomes prasadam.
Correct.
Whatever I am in life right now, be it in my role in the family or my role in the society, that also becomes prasadam, and whatever I am doing is only dispensing of a role that Swami has given me. And as Krishna told Arjuna, you have the feeling that you are only an instrument. Nimitta matram bhava, he said. Just be an instrument. You have been put there, you are only a trustee. You are only an instrument. I am not doing anything. Automatically doership goes. This child has been given to me for me to take care of. I will take care of that as my offering to Swami. So automatically everything falls in line and Karma Yoga becomes so real.
Beautiful. In fact, not only does when the doership goes, there is no problem of attachment. I know that I'm just an instrument in the hands of the Lord. It reminds me of another beautiful episode that happened in the early 1980s when Swami had started the Grama Seva. Swami would speak to the students and ask them how was the day's proceedings. Then one day Swami said, "Did you meet Radhamma?" And the students were wondering, who is Radhamma? Swami said, the one who fed you ragi mudda and buttermilk. They said, oh yes, Swami. They all remembered Radhamma. I think whoever feeds you, you remember. So they remembered Radhamma. Then Swami said, you know what Radhamma is? What is her profession? Then nobody knew what she is, what she does. Swami said she is a midwife. A lady who assists in deliveries in the villages because there are no doctors there, She's a midwife. And then Swami said, you know something? She is the best midwife in the world. And the students were like, wow. Swami said, why do you think she's the best midwife in the world? Again the students had no answer. And Swami said, every time before she has to do any delivery, she prays and tells Swaishwararpanamastu. I offer it to you, Swami. Swami, you come and take over. I am just an instrument. And then Swami said, when I take over, it has to be the best, right?
Very beautiful. So that is the attitude of offering to God, doing as an instrument, accepting whatever comes as prasadam. But when we talk about karma, there are two things. How do you perform your karma and how do you accept the karma that comes? That prasadam buddhi that we are talking about, prasada buddhi, accepting whatever comes, that also becomes very important, because when you look at it, the reason why karma theory is actually gives a lot of solace is it gives some kind of a logic to whatever is happening. Some method in the chaos, as they say, something that you can fall back upon, because when there is purpose, we are ready to go through it. We all struggled through education, whether we liked it or not, but it had the idea that at the end of it I'll benefit. That purpose gave a little bit of solace. You're going through a certain treatment, it's a painful treatment, let's say some radiation therapy, chemotherapy, there is pain in it, but you know that at the end of pain there's going to be some benefit. So that gives you a sense of solace and you're ready to undergo that pain. But when it comes to karma, karma is very complex. It's very difficult to say that this is what is happening, this is what I did, it is going off. So in devotion, what happens is, see, if purpose gives me solace, if reasoning and understanding gives me solace, either I should know why it is happening, or I relegate it to Swami. Swami, I don't understand why this is happening, but I am sure you know why it is happening and I trust your decision. And automatically that peace comes into the mind, and that is one of the greatest gifts of a devotee, that how much ever the trouble the devotee goes through, the devotee knows, Swami, you know why I am going through this, that is enough for me.
That statement is so beautiful, Prem. Even as you say, I get tears in my eyes, because that has given strength to so many people. Every time that Swami is there, Swami knows it is for my good. In fact, I remember on one occasion, Brother Amay and myself, we were there in the West Indies, Trinidad and Tobago. And there we had gone to one Sai center called the Rio Claro Center. So we were just attending bhajans there. And we got to know that the center there, like centers across the world, it was a devotee's home that had been made into a center. And what was so beautiful was this devotee was living in a small space on the first floor. The entire large space of the ground floor had been made into a mandir. But at the end of the bhajan and the program and the satsang, we found out that the host or the devotee who is actually taking care of the center, they had not attended. And then the people said, please come and meet these people on the first floor. When we went there, it was a shocking sight. It was a mother who had just a couple of days before lost her twin children at childbirth. And all the devotees, not her, the other devotees were asking us, why is this happening to her? She has given everything to Swami. She is doing everything for Swami. Why did she lose her twins at childbirth? This lady actually spoke nothing. When we went to her presence, she was weeping and weeping and weeping, and they told us, tell her something. What do we tell? In fact, both of us got tears in our eyes, and we just said, Madam, sister, you know one thing, Swami loves you so much. Definitely. You have faith, right? Swami is God. Yes, she said. Swami loves you. God loves us the most. We don't know why this is happening, but know for sure that Swami knows. And Swami loves you, and Swami will definitely do whatever is best for you. So she asked, what do you want me to do? We said, talk to Swami, pray to Swami every day, take vibhuti. And that was it. When we came back, we were talking, what else could we have told? What do we know of the pain of a mother losing a child? 1 year later, she sends an email saying that I have delivered a baby girl. Here is my princess and the name of the princess and everything. You know, this devotee, her name is Jaishri Singh, because, you know, I am stating it for authenticity. So she said, this is the child. 1 more year later, she says, sends one more mail saying, I have been blessed with another baby daughter. And then she writes, she says, you know what, in these most troublesome times, Swami has been my strength. And then she wrote her whole story. She said, I had to go through 9 IVF treatments, fertility treatments. 9 times they failed. After that, she said, I had 2 miscarriages. And after that, finally, I delivered twins, and those twins died at childbirth. And she says, only Swami ensured that I don't go into depression. Only Swami ensured that I don't take any rash step. I held on to Swami. And now she is actually the mother of 3 children. She says, I have got 3 princesses. Life is so beautiful. I know Swami has finished whatever karma. And I am so grateful that while I had to finish this karma, I had Swami with me. You know, finishing our karma without Swami by the side is so difficult. But with Swami, it becomes so beautiful and easy. Because as Swami says, you know, there is this slide where we will be showing what Swami says on his discourse on the 23rd November 1964. Swami says, you might say that the karma of the previous birth has to be consumed in this birth, and that no amount of grace can save man from that. Evidently, someone has taught you to believe so. But I assure you, you need not suffer from karma like that. When a severe pain torments you, the doctor gives you a morphine injection and you do not feel the pain, though it is there in the body. Grace is like the morphine. The pain is not felt, though you go through it. And that is what happens when we have Swami by our side. The pain will be there, but the suffering won't be there. The karma will be gone through, but we will breeze through it because of the Lord's divine love.
And in fact, in the same discourse, Swami goes on to say, we'll just quickly read 2 more quotes which Swami says there. Swami says, grace takes away the malignity of the karma which you have to undergo. You know there are dated drugs. which are declared ineffective after a certain date. Well, the effect of karma is rendered null, though the account is there and has to be rendered. So very clearly Swami says that yes, karma is there, this theory is there, it has been created by God, it has not been made by somebody else. So it has to be followed, but when God's activity comes and when God steps into the life, He actively manages the way you go through this karma, and He takes care. Because when you told about Sister Jayashree, the question that people might ask is, so Swami will be by our side and we have to suffer? No, that is not the case. When you surrender to Swami, as we said, karma is not a suffering and enjoyment process. It is a process of learning. So when you surrender to Swami, Swami tells you that I will tell you what has to be done. I will teach you what has to be learnt. Then even success becomes his responsibility, isn't it? And that is why Swami says in this last quote that we wanted to read, Swami says, it is wrong to say the lalata likitam, that is what is the fate written on the forehead, cannot be wiped out. That what one has earned in previous births must be consumed in this birth. Grace can countermand all that. Nothing can stand in this way. It is the grace of the Almighty. Remember that. This is again that discourse in 1964. How emphatically this is the grace of the Almighty. Nothing can stand in its way.
Absolutely. Whether it is Sanchita Karma, Prarabdha Karma or Agami Karma, everything God can take care. He has a strategy for everything. Sanchita can be destroyed. Prarabdha, though it looks like destiny, we are stuck in it. Swami says that I can give you the morphine injection. I can make the medicine expire. But for that, we just need to love our Swami, offer our heart to Him, love Him more and more intensely every day. I feel that is the way we can realize we are growing. How much I love Swami today, tomorrow am I loving Him more? If I am not loving Him more than what I loved Him yesterday, then it's decline, it is decay, it is not expansion love. We love Him more and more. And let us realize that when we give the doership to Swami, what usually happens is we feel we are the doer, and that's why we think God is a witness. But let us reverse the roles. Let us make God the doer and we are just witnesses. That is an effort we have to make. Because as Brother Prem beautifully gave an example, Swami will not take over on his own. We have to offer it to Him. We have to tell Swami that, Swami, you take over my life. We offer our life to you. Swami is waiting. But when we offer it like that, He will take over. When we give up doership, when we do enjoy action for the sake of action, because whatever we are doing it as an offering to Swami, and whatever result come, we take it as a prasadam from Swami. When we do this way, the arrow loses target. There is no way to hit. A time will come when all the arrows in the quiver are released as agami karma and nothing comes back. The quiver is empty. We are one with the Lord. Life is beautiful, merger is also beautiful. On that note, dear listeners, dear viewers, we will conclude this satsang. As Brother Prem said right in the beginning, we do not claim to comprehensively answer anything. In fact, not answer anything at all, because as Swami has said every time, Swami will answer each and every one from within. These are all satsangs wherein we imbibe positive thoughts and good words, and finally the answer, each one of us will get it from within. On that note, thank you all once again. Gratitude to the wonderful team Radio Sai, which has helped and made this program come alive, either in the Padyam, composing the music for the Padyam, editing that Padyam, or the video support we are having now, the audio support. It's a beautiful team effort and we feel that oneness, and we are grateful to Swami for giving us that experience. Thank you. Jai Sai Ram.